We're talking to Michael O'Donnell, the owner of the J121 DARKWOOD. Michael, first off, why did you decide to go for the J121?
Well, Lou, I had done a lot of offshore racing when I was younger, primarily in Ireland, things like Round Ireland races on Moonduster, raced on boats like Stormbird, and then latterly did a lot of racing with Mike Slade on Longobarda and Leopard. And then I sort of stepped back from sailing like a lot of people do to have children. And I've gradually got back into it in the last few years. I've been racing an XOD, which is incredibly tough racing, competitive racing in the Solent. I've been doing that for a few years. And actually, I saw this article in Seahorse about a J121. I wasn't in the market to buy a boat. And the idea that, a 40-foot offshore racing boat, I would have been thinking, oh, my God, the idea of trying to raise a crew of 10 people every weekend to go sailing. And what really caught my eye was the fact that it was water ballasted and that the way the rig was set up, you could actually sail this thing offshore with a crew of, 4 or 5 people. And in fact, we've just last weekend raced for our first time two-handed. And that really, it caught my eye. And so from not having thought I wasn't really in the market for a boat, within a month, I had ordered one.
Yeah, and didn't you do well? I mean, your first season was last year, and you won the Channel race. That's a hell of a start to Darkwood, isn't it?
Yeah, we were gobsmacked, frankly, but yeah, it was great. We had a number of lucky breaks, but we have some great guys on the boat. People like Steve Lawrence, who does a lot of sailing with me, and Alistair Shaw, who's a legend as well. So I've been very lucky with the crew who've signed up, and people like sailing on the boat because they've got jobs to do. So you're either doing a job, you're either helming or trimming, or you're in your bunk. Because there's no offshore, we don't spend our time sitting on the weather rail. And that means that you can actually get better people to sail with you because they know they're not going to have to, it's not misery.
Yeah. And we've got a lovely picture here of Darkwood in the Solent, sail testing, and let's zone in on that. What sail combination?
Yeah, so this photo was taken a couple of weeks ago. We got a new, at the front end, it's a jib top, or blast reacher. So it's the same size as a J1 Genoa. It's rated as a Genoa. It's on a furler. Very good for reaching, particularly when it's getting a bit too breezy for Code Zero. Mm-hmm. Inside that, we have it's a J2 that has been reefed or partially reefed. It does look a little bit like an old J-boat sail there with the leech hanging down below the reef. And then inside that, a Genoa staysail. And it works very well. And it's actually, particularly if you're short-handed, it's more manageable. There's quite a few sails. None of them are too big, so it's more manageable than a Code Zero, particularly in marginal conditions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there you're out with just a few people, but I know that you're planning to get back to racing as everybody's going, hallelujah, we're actually going to be able to go yacht racing again. And I believe you're out for the Race the White on August the 1st, Michael.
We are, we've been, like everybody else, we've been desperate to get racing, but, the organising clubs have been very grown up and held discipline very well. We had our first racing outing last weekend, raced two-handed, but our first race fully crewed, or as fully crewed as you can be, under the current regulations, will be the Race the White, and we're really looking forward to it and appreciate the effort that Wark have made in salvaging something for this season. So we'll be racing 6 up for that, which for us is actually it's the maximum number you can carry under the regulations, but it's actually for us it's as many as we'd want to race with because we have 400 kilos of water ballast, which is the equivalent of 5 other people. So that means the rail will be, going upwind, the rail will be stacked.
Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting, in the current climate. And as you alluded to earlier on, normally a 40-foot race boat, you'd probably be looking offshore 8 to 10 crew, and you would actually only go with 6 for the reasons you stated.
Yeah, so things like for the Fastnet last year we were 5 up. We think probably offshore 5 is the optimum number, and we only have a 6-man life raft, so we would never go with that more than that anyway. But you just don't need them, and it works. It's really sweet. The boat down below stays pretty pristine because there's not a whole load of gear lying all over the place. And it seems to work very well, and the crew all seem pretty happy.
Yeah, and being an XOD sailor, you know the Royal Yacht Squadron line pretty well. What's it going to feel like getting on that, and doing that amazing round the island race, that historic race?
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll find it easier to get off the start line than you do in an XOD against the tide at the Royal Squadron line. But we know it very well, and tacking up the green, obviously with this boat you wouldn't be able to go in with 2.5 meters draft. You wouldn't be able to go in quite as close to the shore. But fantastic. It is possibly the most iconic start line in the world, and can't wait to get out there.
Michael, obviously you do an enormous amount of yacht racing, have done over many years, and you're going to Darkwood. Do you ever like to cruise Darkwood?
Yeah, we did last season. We did a bit of what I call race cruising, which after the Fastnet race, we laid the boat up in Plymouth for a little while, and then came back and went cruising in the West Country for about a week in glorious conditions, and then finished up in Dartmouth for Dartmouth Regatta. So effectively cruising from one race to another. And with my wife and my son and Benji, our dog, on board, and okay. they all seem to enjoy it. And we were planning to cruise in West Cork this year after Cork Week, but unfortunately it was not to be.
For the future, though, Michael, I'm sure.
Definitely.
And we had a little chat beforehand, and you said West Cork is something else when the weather's kind.
Yeah, we'd planned to be in Ireland for 2 months this summer. We were going to do the Round Ireland race, which of course is a rope race, fantastic, absolutely fantastic classic race. We were then going to do Cork Week, the Cork 300 celebrations, and then go cruising, and then finish off with Calves Week, which is a regatta in West Cork, which is a must do, a little bit like Dartmouth Regatta, but. We've missed out, but those cruising grounds in West Cork, if the weather's on your side, it's the best cruising ground in the world.